Today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of my favorite fresh desserts, the French fruit tart. If you don't love desserts that are too sweet, this is going to be the perfect treat for you. It's truly a delicate balance of several components like a nutty tart shell, a silky pastry cream, and a medley of fresh fruits. But we're gonna elevate this recipe a bit by adding in a mixed berry jam and a fluffy lemon sponge. I've been using this recipe for years and it has been in my rotation ever since I created it, and I love it and I hope you guys will love it too. So let's get started. Starting with the tart crust, we're going to paddle 1 stick or 113 grams of butter, a 1/3 cup or 40 grams of confection sugar, which I already sifted, and 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of salt until thoroughly combined. Then you're going to add in 1 egg yolk and 1/2 teaspoon or 3 grams of vanilla paste. Once the mixture is homogenized, we're going to add 1½ cups or 180 grams of all-purpose flour until a dough forms. Wrap your dough in cling wrap and leave it in the fridge for 30 minutes before we start rolling. Now that our dough has been thoroughly chilled, we're going to begin on a well-floured surface and roll it out about 1/8 of an inch thick. Now I'm unraveling my dough directly over my tart shell, and you want to make sure you're really pushing that dough into the edges of the ring so that we get beautiful pleats when it's done baking. Then you just want to cut off any excess dough so that we really get a perfect edge. And using a fork, we're going to dock our dough by putting some holes in the base. This will ensure that the dough doesn't puff up while it's in the oven. But before we bake it, we're going to stick this in the freezer for 10 minutes to really solidify that pleated edge shape. And then we're going to bake it at 340 for 10 to 15 minutes. To make our fluffy lemon sponge, we're going to whip 125 grams or 1 cup of confection sugar and 278 grams or 10 large egg whites. Once the egg whites have reached a stiff peak, we're going to add 72 grams or 4 large egg yolks rapidly. The reason we want to do this quickly is because any form of fat will cause the egg whites to begin deflating. But if we do it quickly at the end, we can keep the volume of those egg whites. And lastly, we are going to add 125 grams or 1 cup of almond flour. I'm going to fold this in 3 stages, as well as the zest of 1 lemon. Now we're going to move our batter to a half-size sheet tray and flatten it out. You want to flatten this out in as few motions as you can so that we don't push out too many of those air bubbles. And you can give it a few taps at the end just to make sure it's fully leveled. And you're going to bake this at 350 for 10 minutes. While that's baking, let's get started on our pastry cream. You're going to need 350 grams or 1½ cups of milk, 150 grams or 1/2 cup of cream, 2 vanilla pods, and we're going to gently bring that to a simmer. In a separate bowl, we're going to whisk together 38 grams or 4½ tablespoons of cornstarch and 60 grams or 1/4 cup of sugar. You want to whisk this together really well until the mixture is completely uniform and there are no lumps. Then you're going to add in 90 grams or about 5 large egg yolks and whisk that together. It's going to seem like the mixture is too dry at first, but don't worry, the egg yolks will absorb all of that powder. Now alongside the cornstarch, we're using the egg yolks as our main thickening agent, but we must cook them using a technique called tempering. By tempering, we're gently bringing up the temperature of the eggs, cooking them, but the additional liquid from the milk dilutes the egg proteins, making it harder for them to form bonds, aka scramble your eggs. So instead, you're left with a silky smooth base. Just make sure you're moving this mixture the whole time because the bottom can scorch easily and burn. You want to bring that milk just under a boil and pour it directly over your egg yolks and whisk it vigorously. Whisk it for about 10 to 15 seconds, then pour that mixture back into the pot and you're going to whisk this vigorously until your pastry cream thickens. Once it's nice and thick, we're going to transfer it to a clean bowl and add in 125 grams or 2/3 cup of white chocolate. The white chocolate helps to add some additional fat solids. I just immersion blend mine in to make sure it's really silky smooth, and by the time it cools down, we should have a gorgeous texture. And finally, we are going to make our mixed berry jam. Brace yourselves, this is going to be very complicated. You're going to take half a container of blackberries, half a container of raspberries, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, and the juice of 1 lemon. Then you're just going to kind of mash it all together and put this over the heat and allow it to simmer for 10 to 15 minutes and cool completely, and it should get really nice and thick. Finally, we are ready to assemble. I'm adding a thin layer of our jam so that our cake sticks really well, then piping a thin layer of pastry cream around the border, followed by the remainder of our mixed berry jam. Then I'm going to add pastry cream here in a really random pattern and begin adding our fruit. You can really use any fruit that you like or have on hand. I'm using some berries, peaches, kiwi, and mango. And once we filled the tart with our beautiful fruit, we're going to add a quick glaze on top. This is going to prevent the tart from drying out and add a nice sheen to the exterior. For the glaze, I'm simply taking a jar of peach or apricot preserves and thinning it out with a tablespoon of water. Then just gently heat it over the stove to make it a bit more liquid and easy to brush on. Okay, you guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's recipe. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm gonna have the recipe and all of the information in the description bar below. And I'm so excited for the fall, you guys. I can't wait to make all of the recipes. So don't forget to comment below some of your favorite fall desserts, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Smash the like and subscribe button and comment down below of what you want me to do.